Well, hello, hello. This is DNN Dave, and I'm here, Southern Fried DNN meetup. I am honored tonight to be hosting in the absence of Ryan Moore, who has some things that he could not shuffle around to be with us tonight. So Ryan, we miss you, buddy. Thanks for everybody joining us tonight. Kind of excited about tonight's presentation here. We've got Mike Smeltzer with us tonight, and many of you know Mike. He's been with us several times, and tonight he's going to be talking about something that is probably a little bit not very known, I guess, in many regards by people that are using DNN. So some great bag of goodies for you to potentially use in your module development and customizations through DNN, and understand some of the things, really cool things that you can do with DNN. And I think he's going to give us an update on Shine too while we're here. But before we get into all that, let's jump into some community news. I'll open the floor here just a little bit because I've got a few things, but I've got the community site up here just as a reminder to join dnncommunity.org out there. That's where it all happens, and conversations go on there. And of course, we have the multiple Slack workspaces. Most noteworthy is the DNN Open Help. So give that a good look on Slack and search that up. And I think it's openhelp.slack.com if I'm not mistaken. And feel free to join in there too. We also have the Facebook, DNN Connect on Facebook, DNN Connect group. So please join into the conversation and join us there. I guess most noteworthy is and then I'll open back up the floor for anybody that has any other community updates. We've got the DNN 9.7.0 release candidate 2 out there, and barring no major unforeseen things, we'll be releasing 9.7.0 on Monday. So we're pretty much all ready to go, unless something crazy comes through that we need to respond to. But the plan is to release on Monday, if all goes well. So we're excited about that. This will get us past the 9.6.2. There's one, I would say, minor kind of issue with that, but it was enough to keep a lot of people from upgrading, just simply because of the high volume of logging that happened in it due to some refactoring of styles and so forth within the platform, that something got missed through some automated updates there and caused a small but big issue there. So this will get us past that, so people that are on 9.6.1 or earlier can upgrade with confidence to 9.7.0. And I'll point this out. This was kind of cool. Yesterday I was going to do just a random pull request out there, and I realized that it was the 4,000th pull request that has happened since DNN has moved from Codeplex to GitHub. And that's pull requests. There's been much more issues, that have been logged over these years, but that was kind of cool. And really funny side story. This is not me like promoting myself or anything, but it was just a kind of a weird coincidence. I was also approaching a bit of a milestone that I had noticed of reaching 1,000 contributions within the last year. So my 1,000th contribution ended up being the 4,000th pull request on the DNN platform. So I thought that was kind of a cool coinky dinky there. But wow, I mean, what a story that kind of tells, of 4,000 contributions have been made to DNN platform since moving to GitHub.
So can you do 2,000 by the time it's 5,000?
Yeah, I don't know about that. Let's not make it about me, but I mean, my gosh, that's really quite the achievement. There's no wonder that our project here gets a lot of attention within the GitHub world, as well as .NET Foundation and so forth. So yeah, we're really excited about what else is going on, and a lot of the contributions coming in from people that we've never seen before or never heard of before, that are making contributions. It's really nice to see that happening. Of course, you have all the regulars and so forth that are in there as well, but it's really nice to see people jumping in and trying to, enhance or fix issues that are out there. Let's see. Before I jump over to a couple of DNN community repo updates, I wanted to open up the floor and see if there's any other big announcements or things that have happened since last month that we want to draw attention to. Don't everybody speak at once now.
I'm not. I don't think it's an announcement necessarily, and I think it might be in the next release of DNN, if my memory serves correctly. But I noticed, and I don't want to overshadow anyone's contributions or anything. But one that jumped out for me at least that I saw was the potential ability to have token providers.
Oh yeah.
So if anyone's using the core token functionality in their modules, if any other developers build token providers, it looks like, and I haven't done underneath the covers, but it looks like that those providers should automatically get picked up. So there could be some pretty cool enhancements to some modules that you might automatically kind of get out of the box in the future with that.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. I think that came in by Bogdan from DNN Sharp there. There's now an interface for implementing a token provider there. So you don't have to rely completely on what's been there before. So it's now a provider model, and you can roll your own token providers. That's kind of cool, because I know people kind of roll their own, but not through a proper provider model before. So
yeah, exactly. So this way, if you're using the core API, then your code should auto-magically work, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I know I saw a lot of things coming from Mandeep's over the last few weeks. My inbox has been pretty overload, but it's nice to see a lot of those releases through various extensions that they have and products that they have that's coming out. So I think they're very alive and well over there, and been very busy doing a lot of cool stuff. What else is going on out there? Anything else we should highlight here? All right. I know. I will mention this one. I probably should have pulled it up. Let me just see if I can find it here real quick. It's called DNN Tailwind, I think. Oh, there it is. Okay. So Steve Krantzman recently, I guess you would call it, he kind of forked NV Quick Theme, and he created his own. It's following the same model essentially that NV Quick Theme did, but it is based on Tailwind CSS, which is it's a really different philosophy kind of thing, for CSS, and more lightweight and less frameworky, if you will. I mean, it is a framework, but it's kind of a different way of thinking. So I think he released, he's already up to version 1.1.0, so it's really nice to see some new themes. And for me, I like it because it's following modern practices, and it's not just kind of a one-off theme. It's really more about the tooling and the hooks to the frameworks that you want to be dependent on and so forth, and being able to work on that. So if you haven't seen that, go out there and check it out. I think a lot of the documentation for it maps over, but he really did a great job here of making the documentation work for things that are specific to Tailwind CS, like purging and things like that. That was not something that you really worry about with Bootstrap. So it's just nice to see that show up out there. I will jump back over to the DNN community GitHub repo and point out that I was able to get a few more things that I've been working on for quite some time now. If you go out there and search for just starter or starter dash, you'll see that there's quite a few starter projects that are out here now for various things, various extension types that you can do in DNN, and these are true starters. They're not meant to be like a template or anything like that, but you can use them as a good starting and a learning tool for this. And I had, for a while, had out there the module web forms, but none of the other module patterns were out there. But over the past couple of weeks, I was able to get the SPA module out there as well as the MVC starter. So now we have all three main patterns out there. And there's some other ones that have been done as well. Theme object, web API. This is just a standalone web API project. And there's a scheduled job project out here as well. So I've tried to do all these in a very consistent pattern through all these. Of course, there's some obvious differences due to the types of modules that they are. But if you haven't checked these out, check them out. They're really good, simple projects to see how things are scaffolded. And a shout out to Andrew Heffling and also Daniel Velados, who was able to help quite a bit with some of the standards of these and really making sure that we're doing things in a way that the broader Microsoft community does things. So I'm really excited about that and then how those are. Of course, those work with the DNN CLI. If you don't know about that, command line tool to be able to quickly scaffold out these projects based on the starter packages as well as your custom GitHub repos. So it doesn't have to just be the starter packages. It really works with any custom repo. But check that out. That's also published to NPM, npm.js.com/package/@DNN community/DNN CLI, or you can just search NPM for DNN-CLI. Well, that's about all I had for that. So unless there are any other announcements that people have or something that's cool to draw attention to, we'll jump right into turning things over to our guest tonight. Mike, I believe, is going to first give us a bit of an update on Shine out there. And if you don't know about his company, it's at scotiacode.com. And you can go out there and check out about the Shine product right now, which is really a control panel solution. And Mike, I'm botching this all up. You can say it a whole lot better than I can. But I'll turn it over to you for a quick demo on that, and then I think your main presentation is going to be on the event system in DNN and some of the things that you can hook into with that. Is that all right? So welcome, Mike.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for having me. Let's go ahead and share my screen here.
I will switch the presenter over to you there.
Must be a maybe I've targeted the wrong screen.
That is some beach.
That's where I should be right now. Can you show that just one more time, David? I don't know.
Sure.
The Windows.
Let me do that again. Did I send it to the wrong one? Because I know you had one set up for presentation.
It's the right one. I just don't think it's. I think maybe I didn't click the right stuff. There we go. Hey, as David mentioned, I'm just going to start with a quick update of Shine. For those of you who are not familiar with Shine, essentially it's a installable extension for DNN websites. It supports DNN 7.4.1 all the way up to the latest version. And essentially what it is, it's a control panel solution that replaces the core control panel or the persona bar as the default content editor and admin experience when you log into a DNN website. I'm just going to go ahead and show you a couple features that are coming out in the next release. Right now we are in production with version 1.3.1, and version 1.4 is going to be coming out towards the end of next week. I'm going to go ahead here and log in. And this release really focuses on just starting to improve the page management and redirect management experience a little bit. So from a UI perspective, everything is the same. But what we started to do is focus on more productivity features. So originally the intent was to build a solution that works, that's inclusive, that it works with a keyboard and mouse, it works with touch only, works on mobile device, works for people with vision issues, it's accessible. So really start with a core foundation and start to incrementally add features that a lot of other people might expect to see in their solutions, in their solution as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a demonstration to kind of show some of these productivity features. We only have a few web pages here in this website, so I'm just going to go ahead and add just a few web pages for, we'll say, a fictional IT company. So we might have something like, we already have a home page, so maybe we'll have a products page, we'll have a services page, maybe a work page, so a showcase, some testimonials, and a contact page. And you can see there I just added about half a dozen pages, very streamlined, without kind of jumping around, without screens closing, just, Shine knew that I just wanted to keep on adding pages, so it kept me in my flow. Originally, as I mentioned, we focused on kind of core behaviors to start, so the management of this list after you create the pages will be a little bit clunky in that you have to use the context menus to move things around. So we started to add drag and drop functionality, and this works out really well with some of the unobtrusive notifications that we've implemented in one of the previous releases. So I'm just going to go ahead here and start reordering some of these pages to make it look like something that I might actually see on my website. As you can see here, these things are updating very quickly, real time. I'm actually going to go ahead and create a couple more pages. I have a blog management page in here as well, but I might have something else. We'll just say user management. I'm going to add that right to the root, but I can just grab it, drag and drop it into that list, and now it becomes a child page. So drag and drop is now kind of working exactly as you'd expect it to. Nice and fast, and you can move things around. Another feature with the drag and drop, because we're focusing on inclusive design, so not just keyboard and mouse, but any other type of input people might be using, I'm going to go ahead here and use my hand, and you'll see that I should be able to drag and drop these pages as well. So drag and drop does work with touch, and as Shine is a responsive control panel, I'm just going to go ahead and shrink this down to something that you might see on a mobile phone, and now kind of you can see more what it would look like kind of in the real with a mobile device. So nice and fast, supports touch, supports drag and drop.
That's very cool. It's nice to see.
A few other things that we've added in here, the context menus. So you used to be able to click, or you still can, but originally you could only click on these three dots to get your context menu, and now we've integrated it with the right click on the mouse button. So you can right click on anywhere on these pages, and your context menus will now show up right where you'd expect them to. From our testing and working with users, we found that just a couple of these small changes like this, the user experience, can really help speed up the productivity. Shine, I think, does a good is good for increasing productivity in many cases, and then this is just another kind of example to add on to the direction that we're going. And yeah, that's I think that's all I'm going to show you for now. There's a couple other features that are coming out in this release, mainly around a few small bug fixes and also around the persona bar. Currently, you can open the persona bar from within Shine just by coming over here and clicking these three dots. But this window that pops up here with the persona bar in it really is a one-time use window. So as soon as this page refreshes or someone navigates away from this page, the persona bar is gone. But through our testing, we're finding that when people go in there, they're actually going to be in there for a few minutes. They might do many different things. So when that mode is entered, Shine is still here on your other screen, still works like they expect it to, but we've changed it so the persona bar now stays open for the remainder of your login session. So if you're in that other screen, that other view, you can navigate around and not lose the persona bar.
Okay.
That should be coming in the next release for you, Dave. So yeah, all about productivity is this release, and should be available next week. I'm going to go ahead now and just kind of jump right into the main presentation, if that's good.
Yeah, thanks for the update on Shine. That's really nice to see the progress there.
You're welcome. Yeah, there's after that update, I'll just speak to it just briefly. We're going to be coming pretty quick with another release in the next couple of weeks for the Digital Asset Manager. So all of the components that are built within the page management experience are basically reusable components in our solution. So the page management experience will have the same kind of drag and drop and look and feel and things like that, but also with page version or file versioning capabilities. So that'll be rolling out shortly thereafter in September, and that'll really set us up for kind of the next phase of Shine, which has got some really exciting things that I'm sure we'll be talking about again in the future.
Fantastic.
I'm just actually trying to share my PowerPoint, but it seems stuck on the desktop there, so just bear with me just a moment. You guys aren't seeing the PowerPoint, are you?
Correct. Now you should be able to hit the share again and just select.
I just want to share everything. There we go. There we go. Okay, yeah, so thanks again for everyone for coming tonight. Really appreciate it. Tonight we're going to talk about events and hooks in DNN platform. I should have introduced myself a few minutes ago, but my name is Mike Smeltzer. I'm a DNN MVP and the lead solution developer at ScotiaCode. ScotiaCode is based on the east coast of Canada, and we focus on building inclusive website products and offer full-stack .NET consulting services. A large portion of the products are DNN focused, but we also get into just custom .NET Core development and other solutions as well. So what are events and hooks in DNN? Well, I'll tell you what they're not. They're not an extension. So DNN, we think about extensibility. We think about modules and themes a lot. A lot of the solutions I see that could be potentially better purposed as other solutions in DNN commonly end up as modules. And I think a lot of the reason for that is just modules. There's a lot of documentation, and a lot of people think in modules just from experience and from what's out there. But there's other types of functionality in DNN that we can utilize in our solutions outside of the module, outside of an extension. And one of those areas are events. I call them events and hooks because some other platforms and CMSs use the hook terminology for custom code that can kind of jump into different areas in a page lifecycle, we'll say. But in DNN, from a core perspective, the really proper terminology is events in DNN. These events can live within an extension. So if you have a module extension, by all means, you're able to add an event inside of it. Or they can be side-loaded onto your DNN website. I personally don't advocate for side-loading things into DNN if possible, but you can do that. And there are valid use cases for that in some ways. The other kind of interesting and what I think is kind of cool thing about the event system is that there's no or very minimal configuration, and there's automatic discovery. So if I'm creating a new module or a new extension, for instance, I have to create a manifest file and do some configuration. Other solutions in DNN, I might have to configure something in the web.config file to get it to happen, like an HTTP module, we'll say. But if I take advantage of the event system, I can build an event handler that can run code, and I don't need to tell DNN how to use it. The way it's built in DNN, and we'll get to that in a few minutes, but DNN kind of automatically picks up everything and puts it in the right place for us. So it saves us time as a developer as well. Events can be standalone, or they can be part of a bigger solution. So if you're building a large web app solution that's got many modules, a theme, maybe some URL providers, a bunch of different things, you can use events as part of that overall solution. Or you can build events that are kind of like a module in that, or a microservice in some ways as well, it has a specific purpose. You can install it into your website or add to your website, and it does just that. And it can do whatever it needs to do regardless of what website it's on. So we're going to show some kind of generic use cases where we might have some standalone events that could be deployed to our existing customers or theoretically sold through a store, through DNN store or other means. And also, there's 45 of these events, more than 45 actually, in DNN, and they cover many different areas. So we have events in DNN for things surrounding the page itself. So when a page is created, behind the scenes events get triggered. When users log in or users get created, for instance, events happen behind the scenes. Also, for the portal itself, the site itself, when you create a new portal, events get triggered behind the scenes. So we can write code that kind of hooks into these events and virtually does whatever we want, which gives us a lot of power in ways that we can build solutions, put them into a website, not require users to drop modules on pages to get that functionality to happen. Sort of like a scheduled task, where scheduling tasks, you can do things behind the scenes. You can do the same types of things with events, but more contextually aware. So let's just jump in and do some demos, and I've put together some what I think are real-world use cases around some of these demos. I'm not going to touch every single event, as I mentioned, there's 445, but I picked out some common areas where I like to dabble, or have dabbled, I guess, in recent times with the event system. I'm just going to jump over to Visual Studio. Okay. I also just, I should note as part of this, as part of this presentation, I've fully documented the event system, and all the examples you see tonight I have code snippets for that are going to be uploaded to the DNN Docs website. The documentation... Pardon? Yeah. The documentation's finished. I just want to go through and proofread it and add any feedback that might come up tonight into it. So you should see it there. I would hope by end of day tomorrow, if not over the weekend. But we're just going to jump forward into our first use case, which is adding. Actually, let's do this one first. Adding scripts to a page. So in DNN today, let me just get our test website loaded up here. In DNN today, a common use case is to add a snippet of JavaScript to a page. In a lot of solutions I've looked at and even worked on myself, there's a few common ways of doing that. One really quick and dirty way is to add a HTML module to a page and go into the module settings and maybe add something into that module header section, which can add JavaScript or a meta tag, for instance, in the header. Another portion would be maybe adding something into a skin directly, or even do something like hijack the analytics provider code that is at the root of the website to inject something as well. Now, a lot of solutions I work on, I don't want to have my users have to add a module to a page just to add something to the page. especially in cases where I want it on every single page. So as mentioned, we could add that module to a page and share it, which can be a bit cumbersome and open up other administrative kind of annoyances. Or we could build an event that connects to basically the page load of every single page and can inject something into it. These events are called skin events. So in DNN, when the page loads up, it loads a few different layers of things. And we have a skin, we have a container, we have modules. Every time that skin loads, it triggers an event called a skin event listener. Now these skin event listeners have two parts to them. Well, I mentioned earlier that we have minimal configuration or automatic discovery. For skin events and container events, they're implemented a little bit differently than the rest of the event system, so we actually have to physically register these in DNN. So the first step we have to do is run a piece of code that looks similar to this one here that I'm highlighting. And basically what it's doing is, as you can see here, it's adding a skin event listener into DNN. And really all that is a static class as a method called onSkinLoad. And we're using this skin event type called onSkinLoad to tell it, hey, when the skin loads up, here's the event for that. These also have other, the skins also have other event types besides skin load. I'll just quickly show you those. And basically, they kind of follow the page lifecycle: on knit, on load, pre-render, and unload. But for our purpose, we're just going to stick to on load for now. In order to register these, we want to do it at the startup when DNN loads up. So DNN doesn't really give us a really clean, generic way that I'm aware of running code when the application starts. There are different ways to do it. What I'm doing here is I'm actually taking advantage of the functionality that Andrew Hoffman contributes at the core, which is the dependency injection. Dependency injection has, if you implement IDNN startup and configure services, just by adding these things in the class, this code will run when DNN turns on. You could also piggyback on something like the route mapper for the web API routes, because that code runs when DNN starts up. Persona bar, we're actually getting into an example because the persona bar uses this event system in its implementation, and they went and implemented it through a HTTP module that can pick up on the application startup events. For my purposes, I like to keep things with no changes to a web config as possible, so I can have a clean install, a clean uninstall, and not worry about if my user is making changes to their web config, if they are managing those inside of some type of continuous deployment system. I want my modules to be as unobtrusive, or my extensions solutions to be as unobtrusive as possible. So that's why I tend to piggyback on this type of functionality. But basically, this code runs on load, registers our skin event, and then this code here, anything that is really inside this method will run every single time the page loads. So I'm going to go down here and just grab a little snippet of code that I wrote earlier. And basically what this is doing is it's finding the header tag on the page, creating a literal control, so just string of text, basically, and we're going to inject a meta tag into the page. So I'm just going to go ahead and build this project. And you could do anything, really, in C# in here. DNN gives us a hook, basically, into the skin itself, which got me access to the page. But you can write any C# code here, and it'll run when it fires up. So let's just refresh this site and see if that got injected into the header of the page. All right. So page loaded up. I go to view source, and you can see right here at the end of our header, we've got a meta tag that says type test. So we know that the code works. And I could put some logic inside of this code to say, don't run on certain pages. I could get a little fancy and say, don't run on this page if this page has a tag on it, or some other type of identifier. I could even use this as part of a greater solution where I might have a persona bar extension that has a text area in it, and I pull whatever the user has put into the text box and inject it into the page. Currently, this is kind of like what we're doing with the analytics provider, except we're piggybacking on other functionality to do it. Now, where this kind of, I can think of a lot of different ways that I could use this in a custom solution, but maybe I want to add something to a lot of websites because they don't have it today. So one common thing that I do is Open Graph or other types of social sharing tags. I want those on every single page of my website, and a lot of cases, those are going to be custom. They might be dynamic in that, if I'm on a blog page that runs off of, a module that dynamically generates the URLs and things like that, I might want to write some code in here that can pull data in from that module, or I might just want to use the page description and just say that I have it there to start. So I can come down here and, instead of this test meta tag, throw something else in there that is Open Graph title, and I could then write some custom code using that skin object that got passed through. I could probably grab the title, I think. That might be in the page.
Yeah, I don't know if my audio is echoing back to me there.
Are you good?
Let's check that. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Just in case some people are wondering what. That's pretty bad.
Is that it?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
It's echoing too bad.
Oh, okay. My apologies. Gotcha. So here's another example where I could then add this skin event to every single page, my clients' pages, not care what's on their website, not care what modules they're using, and start adding Open Graph tags to the page. So I think you can start to see some of the power that this has here. In that now I don't need to add a module to the page to inject something. I could tie this into another solution or stand alone and start injecting things into pages. All right, we're going to go on to. I see something in the chat here. Maybe just some comments. Daniel Vlada, you use that on a module that needs to run something. Awesome. Yeah, that's good to hear. HTTP handlers, as you mentioned, there's some stuff that you can use out there, but as you say, they add performance issues potentially and things like that, and just overhead in that you have to add it to the web config and things like that. So I think that these hooks behind the scenes, and they've been here a long time. I don't think they've been documented and been discussed. So that's why they may not be used as much. Next example I'm going to show you is one that exists today that you might inadvertently use that you didn't know about. So in the persona bar, when we went from DNN 7 and 8 to persona bar, we kind of lost admin and host pages in the same way that we had them before. But sites still use them. And the persona bar was good to kind of piggyback on some of that functionality. So if I come into the pages section of the persona bar, you notice I don't have an admin section here, even though this section or this site has admin pages. But if I go and add a new page, and we'll just call it blog management, and give it a parent page of admin, what's actually happening behind the scenes when I press add page is the persona bar has a page event listener that basically says, oh, a page was created, dynamically checks to see if it is a child page of admin, and if it is, runs custom code that creates an entry into the persona bar menu. So now we have a way, or we've always had it, but here's a way that the persona bar uses this type of functionality to kind of give you more of a value add in some cases. If I go ahead and click that, it's just going to take me to that page as a link. But kind of cool to see that our own solutions within the platform are using things within the platform to solve use cases that people might have, instead of kind of just building functionality that might be cool and not taking advantage of it in all ways. So that one's actually called a, let's show you some documentation on that really quickly here. Sorry, it doesn't want to keep my window open. Doesn't look like. Can you guys see a Word document on your end? No? That's okay. Basically, I was just going to show you some of the documentation surrounding this, but this is a tab event handler, and those tab events, I'll just speak to it briefly. They happen in a bunch of different scenarios. So a page is updated, a page is created, a page is deleted, and there's two types of deletes in DNN. There's the soft delete and a hard delete. So when it's added to the recycle bin, or when it's deleted from the recycle bin, and also when a page is restored. So there's a bunch of different hooks that you can get into on the page level, whereas the skin event only had 4 events. There's over half a dozen for tabs. So as you kind of get into the different sections, there's a lot of different really granular areas that you can get into and start to change.
Mike, I wonder if you could try muting for just a second so I can ask a question. Let's try it now. Okay, yeah, much better. How would you create something that, in what context would the code live that is listening to an event that is not paid? For instance, if you want to know, hey, I want to send a notification out to a particular security role, all the members of a security role when a page is created, or something like that that doesn't exist natively in the platform, where would that code live?
Yeah, so great question, David. With that example, I didn't give a code snippet, but this is basically, and I'll show these for some of the other event types, but this is basically what that event handler looks like. And this is all the code that you need to write for it to actually work within DNN. So I just basically need to create a class that has this attribute at the top of it, an export type of iTab event handler. I need to implement that interface. And just by doing that, DNN will dynamically pick this up when the application loads. So you can add this class in any type of solution. You could make a class library and, as mentioned earlier, sideload it and drop it into the bin. So yeah, just any old C# VB class within any type of DLL that's running inside of your DNN context. And it will pass into these parameters. So in the case of the persona bar there, it would have passed in the page that was created. And from here, you get access to everything that was created in that page. So then basically, it's whatever you want to do. The notification example you just mentioned there, you could write some code in here that took advantage of the DNN notification system, or sent an email, or any other type of use case you might have. In some cases, you might have a system that talks to another system. And when something happens in DNN, you want to send something over to that other system for whatever reason. You can do any of that type of stuff within these sections. Yeah, it's pretty cool, pretty powerful. We'll get into a couple more real world in my world use cases that come up too, and a few of the other ones here as well. Yeah, let's get into. This might put it a little bit more into perspective. So this one here is for a module. So we can write an event handler and looks exactly the same as the tab event handler, except we're using iModule event handler and iModule event handler. And I do believe this is using reflection. So when DNN loads up, it just reflection, hey, who's using this? Oh, grab it dynamically and load it into the pipeline, basically. One thing that drives me crazy a lot in DNN websites is when people don't put module titles on modules. In Shine, I've changed the user interface to try and promote people to do that more through the UI. But in some cases, you might want to pre-populate a title with something. Maybe you want to add tags to a module. A lot of different use cases in DNN. There's some times where I might add a module to a page and then go in after the fact and change some settings in the settings screen because I don't have the template system set up to automatically load those. I could just create one of these guys here and do something automatically in it. So with this example, I'm just going to paste some code in here, and this is basically going to set the module that was just created its title to my custom module title, and then it's going to update that module. Just for a quick and dirty example of how this will work. Let's go back to our website and refresh it. A lot of the systems out there have, you might hear of webhooks and things like that. I really think that this type of functionality, you could create some type of webhook system in DNN where it does send either notifications, as you mentioned, David, or when a page is created in DNN, it sends that request to something else over an API. A lot of really neat things we can do. So we're going to go here and just add a module to the page, grab our favorite HTML module, and usually what ends up happening is we'll have a bunch of HTML modules on a page, and their titles will all be enter title. But as you see here, that was really quick. My custom module title shows up here on the tag on the left. We'll just go into the settings screen really quickly, so you can actually see it in the spot, and there it is. So you could deploy that code onto any DNN website, and you don't have to know about how it's implemented. If it creates pages, that code will run, and we'll change that for you. So you can do a lot of really neat things there, I think, especially if you're taking this type of functionality and augmenting something else. So what I mean by that is open content is a great example that I use in a lot of my solutions. But when you add it to a page, there isn't a default content type. Maybe I want to have a default content type. So I know that that module runs off of a module setting. So I could, in this code, instead of changing the module title, I could say, I'll just write some pseudocode. But if is open content module run what's in here. And in here it could be something like, this isn't the actual code, but module settings, .add, or maybe this is the actual code. And I think maybe that setting is something like template, and it's a path to a Razor C# file. So I know that the one I want is right here. And then right here I could save my module settings instead of updating the module. And then basically when you add that open content module to the page, I'm augmenting someone else's module, someone else's extension, and making it have a default selection. Maybe I want to do that for a user specific. Hey, if the user that's adding modules to the page is a certain type of role, do something different. So you can start to personalize the experience in many different ways for people. Another really good one in here would be module removed. So in a lot of cases, I've seen triggers added to databases and other things to, hey, when something's deleted from a page, go do something else for me. But really, you could write a module event handler, and when that module's been actually deleted from the recycle bin, I could write some cleanup code that goes out to my third-party service or my other custom app, and deletes any connected data, we'll say, or something like that. So a lot of flexibility in there, and those events that you can get into are the created, deleted, removed, and updated. So 4 events for modules, not a ton, but enough to, I think, do some damage for sure. Okay, another example I have here.
Do you know if there's any event for when a module is about to be uninstalled?
Yeah, that question actually came up a few months ago. There isn't currently an event that in the event system for that, but I'll circle back to that in just a minute, Daniel, and show you how the core implements the events. So literally, that could be implemented with like one line of code.
I smell a PR coming.
Yeah, it sounds like a good one for you to start learning the event system with, I think. Yeah, I'll show it once in a sec, though. This one here is for users. So this is something actually I've been using a lot lately. And by doing the exact same thing that we did on the last couple of examples, just a class, user event handlers, this automatically gets picked up in DNN. We can write code that runs when someone logs in, for instance. Don't need to know anything about the website if we don't want to, or use it as part of a greater solution. But let's write some code here. So I want to track in Google Analytics every single time someone logs into my website. Now, I might not want to track who that user is for privacy reasons, but I want for statistics to be able to get on a chart, on a graph, and see what time of day people log in and things like that. So in C# we have access to a Google Analytics API that we could use to do that. For this example, I've just kind of created my own pretend wrapper. And what this will do for this example, when I log an analytic event, it's just going to put something into our event log. But you could really see what I could do here. I could write anything. So I could use that API example, use the Google API, write code here, and every time someone logs in, send that event up to my analytics. I could also send that event to anything else. If I had another service that I want to do some magic connection behind the scenes when they log in, I can take advantage of that. But we'll just go ahead and use this example for now. As you'll see here, well, it's building for user events when the user is authenticated, so they log in. And what's good to know about this is this event is thrown inside of the login base classes. So for my investigation, basically any event, any login provider that is built in DNN does not have to implement this. It gets kind of thrown behind the scenes. So it should work with your standard DNN login provider or any other ones you might have as well. But we can get access to when the user's been created, when the user's been removed, deleted. So removed would be added to the recycle bin, soft deleted, and hard deleted. So user deleted when they've been approved and if the user's been updated. And to David's point earlier, you could have notifications. In some systems, you can kind of follow when a page has been updated. I want to follow a piece of content. You can implement something similar using these types of hooks as well. But let's just go ahead here. I'm going to log out. This is all running on my local machine here, so it's just a little slow at the moment, so just bear with me. All right, so I'm logged back in. Maybe. One sec. No, we're not. Here we go. So I'm going to log in. That event handler, if everything works, should throw behind the scenes And in this case, we should see something in our event log that says sample analytic event user login. So DNN, I think in the box, uses these events for user login potentially that you see here in general. But as you see here, we can kind of piggyback on that as well. The persona bar that I mentioned earlier, if you notice here, the persona bar UI project has event handlers inside components, and they have tab event handlers. So this is where they're actually implementing this functionality, and they, as us in the community, are using this functionality inside the persona bar. And if we come down here, the example I gave a few minutes ago, when the page is created, you can see here that it does with the min controller create link menu. And it does the same stuff if you've updated the page, because you might change the page name or change the parent page. So it takes care of a few different use cases. But really nice to see that they're doing that in here as well. And I'm going to show you so right in here, and you'll find these things scattered through the platform, but this is the code that lets me basically create a tab, a page in DNN. And this is a private method, but it's ran by the public one. And after it does all this code of creating pages and clearing the cache, updating permissions, just before it returns the ID to you, it triggers that event on tab created. So really, if I took this code right here and we can pretend that this is the DNN extension uninstaller code. And it uninstalls extensions. So let's just pretend this is the actual code in DNN, does uninstallation. We could probably just, when I get my references correct, add some code into this event manager that says on module uninstalled. So there's one spot we'd have to add that really, and then probably have module event args or something like that. Maybe it would be like extension event arguments. And then in here you could do whatever you want. Maybe it's the extension ID or the name of the module or what have you. But really, it's a one-line piece of code in DNN to throw these events. So if you had a custom solution that you wanted to throw an existing event in, really it's just event manager.instance, and then you could throw the event. So there are solutions out there that may create pages that are not the DNN page manager. There are solutions out there that might be a file manager that are not the DNN file manager, for instance. You might want to add some of these events to your solution. So that way other people can kind of hook into your pipeline and do things as part of a greater solution too. So to kind of answer your question there a little bit, Daniel, yeah, 100% possible. That event manager code just would need to be updated and have a new thing to reflect extensions being installed and throw the correct object that someone might want to consume.
Yeah, totally answers it. So the actual implementation could be empty, but it allows other third parties to hook into that. And
100%, yeah.
Yeah, the small note is it would have to happen before the module are installed.
Yeah,
now,
you could put it wherever you wanted to.
Do you know if that event is called, it's going to wait for the call to return before proceeding? Or is it async?
I think it's probably synchronous. I don't know 100%, but I think it probably is. I'd be careful throwing that event before it was uninstalled, just in case something broke during an installation. Maybe there's a way to kind of...
Yeah, because the idea is the code to uninstall your module would be in the DLL that's going to get deleted. So it would have to happen before it gets deleted.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, it would need testing, but yeah.
Have to do something for sure. Yeah, that's a tricky use case, that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you go up to the project and just search for Event Manager, you'll see all of the spots where this stuff is implemented, and they're all one-liners, right? So, for instance, the social aspect, the social API in DNN throws when friendships is accepted or requested and things like that, or when someone follows you. I think Evoke mainly would use a lot of that functionality, but it's here for anyone that wants to use it. And then the Event Manager class itself, this is where I went to find all of these events when I stumbled upon them. I actually stumbled upon the skin event handlers while I was doing the Shine project, because we take advantage of injecting things in some of the pages without having users to add modules and things like that. But then I came to this spot, and if you come in here, you can kind of see everything that exists in here. So when files are changed or deleted, moved, metadata is even changed. That's a pretty cool one. The file downloaded event, this doesn't get thrown when someone accesses the file, even though that is a download. It gets access when someone, I think, physically downloads it from the file manager. So there are some nuances with a few of these. But I could simply, search this to kind of track it down and confirm that if I wanted to. But as you see here, here are the ones we showed a few minutes ago. The modules being created and updated. Portal created is a cool one. I've been playing with this one myself in that, regardless of what type of portal template you might use, maybe I want to do something to your website as soon as you create it. So what I mean by that is maybe I want to override that template and tweak a few settings. Maybe I want to add some users by default, or configure a few other things without having to worry about a template. I could do it inside of one of these portal created handlers, and I could do it in a more dynamic fashion. So I could then see, what type of user created the portal. Were they content editor? Were they content editor number 2? Were they from the HR department? And pre-populate their new portal, their new website based on some dynamic nature. So a lot of cool little things you can do in here. Same thing with roles. We talked about tabs earlier. The tab published, that one I don't believe, it's in the core, but I don't think, I have to double check this, but I don't think the core runs the publish code. I don't know if that's an Evoke specific implementation, but it certainly exists in the core, and all publishing, from what I can see, publishing a page triggers some changes to permissions. The user ones that we talked about as well. So there's about 40, I think 45 of these types of events. The ones you won't see in here are the skin events and container events, which I didn't mention. So those two types of things are implemented in a different area, and that's why we had to register them a little bit and do something a little bit different to them. But on the container events as well, there's events that run for every container, and you could then say to yourself, well, if it runs for every container, well, the container's only purpose is to house a module, so that event runs for every single module on the page. So you can do some really cool dynamic things to a module on that basis as well. That's, I think, all I have from kind of the examples and demos. I do have that documentation. I don't know why my Word won't show up here for whatever reason. But on the DNN Docs website, I'll show you where some of the documentation lives at the moment, and we'll be able to find this in a couple days. All of these snippets that you see in here. So for things like the modules, creating portals, I'm basically taking these snippets and embedding them inside the documentation. So you should have a really quick, easy way of just grabbing a snippet for an event, putting it into the class library, whether that's an existing one or not, and kind of jumping on your way. If you go into the features section under extensibility, you're not seeing it show up in the menu at the moment, but you will. There is a event system page. So you should see right underneath themes probably, or it must be alphabetical. So at the top, event system will show up. And this was just a first kind of rough draft that I did just get a placeholder a few months ago. But really I've broken this out into all the different types of events that are in DNN. Also mentioned, actually I think I can, nice just to show you instead of talking about it. See if I can't pull it from a different screen here. Yeah, something like that. That's all right. But basically, I break it down into different types of events and speak to some of those nuances that I mentioned with the container and skin events, and then give you stub bits, code snippets, so you can just copy and paste them into your own solution. One thing that you could also do with some of these types of events is, you could prevent things from being added to pages. I work on a lot of solutions where I like to lock things down and only give certain access to certain things. And for any situations where DNN may not give you that granular level of capability, like maybe you want to prevent a certain user from doing something in the CMS, then you can put that type of functionality inside of these events as well. And go from there.
Well, I don't know about the rest. Nope. You can back on me again.
There we go. Can you control back to you?
We'll see how this goes with the feedback there. But I don't know about everybody else, but I'm super excited. Mike, I'm going to have to mute. Okay, let's try that. Nope. Nope. Okay, that's better. All right. I don't know about the rest of you, but I am super stoked about this stuff. I had no idea it was even in there. So this is really cool. I'm like over here dreaming of cool stuff that we could do, and both custom solutions and potentially even in the platform to do some enhancements and stuff. So that is really good stuff. I'm looking forward to the documentation. I didn't see any questions in the chat there, but does anybody have any questions for Mike here?
I don't have a specific question. I just would echo the sentiment that this is awesome. And why haven't we used this before? Is it because it was dependent on the thing that Heflin put in with dependency injection, or was this like a hidden gem? Or
I'd say it's just a hidden gem, because there are other ways to get code to run on DNN startup. So yeah, I always say, someone told me this before, I don't know how factual it is, but I'm guessing it probably is pretty factual. There's maybe 10,000 features in DNN. There's a lot to sift through in there. So I'm hoping this stuff gets utilized by people, and that it's just a documentation challenge. There are other areas of DNN that I thought that as well, and when you get examples out there, sometimes they don't get taken advantage of. So this is definitely an area where I'm going to start by getting documentation out there and hopefully talking about it a bit more, that won't be such a hidden gem anymore.
Yeah, I can kind of see another live stream coming up where we actually deep dive into a few of these and show some people. That would be really nice, Mike. What other questions we have or comments from anybody on this? Well, Mike, thanks for sharing this. It's really fantastic. so excited I want to go and like explore now and see some see some of this stuff out there. I also like the way you work the dependency injection so that you can control when that actually runs and hooks it in that way. So that's a really nice way to do that. It's really cool. One of the things that I felt when I was doing some community announcements there is due to a technical difficulty, I think Clint had something to share about some Salesforce goodness.
I was in the middle of typing Mike a hype message there, so and then I had to unmute. So, yeah, so the company I work for, we are a managed package on top of Salesforce, and so far we've been, a closed solution. But about 6 weeks ago, our developers or engineers started exposing some APIs in the solution. And so I have been, trying to push myself to learn and do stuff, and basically, make events happen inside of our solution from those endpoints. But given that we're built on Salesforce, there are a lot of hoops you have to jump through. I'm hearing that thing ding. I don't know if people are dropping or if it's me dropping. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you okay. I think some people are dropping and having to come back. I'm watching their videos go away and all that.
Well, it's probably when Patterson starts talking, people drop. I'm used to it. But anyways, so I've had to learn how to authenticate in the Salesforce and then basically hit, RESTful web services API endpoints in Salesforce. But again, you have to jump through some Salesforce hoops to do it. And I started out trying to do it all in JavaScript, and I got pretty close. And then one of our engineers, because we don't have a ton of documentation because this stuff is new, so I'm like bumping into walls everywhere. And he's like, oh, yeah, you can't do this in JavaScript because the way we're created. So anyways, I had to go write server-side code. Then I had to get my module game, knock the dust off of it, which is still pretty rusty. So next month's meeting, I think, is Ash going to present and me, or is it?
Yeah, I think that's the plan. I think Ash Prasad is going to join us and talk a little bit about the new DNN store.
Gotcha. Yeah, so and that's probably good because I won't have enough to fill up, an hour like Mike did here. And the stuff that I show you all on the DNN side will probably be like child's play in comparison to what we've seen here. Nevertheless, some of the stuff on the Salesforce side you may have not seen simply because you can't go sign up for a developer account and see this stuff because it's only for like, I don't know, whatever, Salesforce Enterprise and so there's certain like knobs and things that you have to, spool up and turn the right way in Salesforce in order to. So what I'm hoping is for any of y'all that don't deal a lot with Salesforce and you're maybe like, oh, Salesforce is a beast or whatever, I can at least show you one pathway to, how I get data out of it and into DNN. And to give examples, in the past 3 weeks, I have connected my office door using Particle, IoT, and then when I open the door, it fires an alert in Simpler, which in turn fires a push notification on your mobile phone. And then I took content out of Simpler, used a Raspberry Pi, and put it up on the TV. And then we also have this notifications API where you can fire notifications in Simpler, which is the name of the platform, from anywhere. So I'm firing notifications in Simpler coming from DNN. So I could potentially hook into one of these events Mike has just talked about and fire a notification in Simpler if I wanted to. So,
hey, this is starting to sound like a Michael Jordan commercial, off the rim, over the
Well, in some ways I feel like that, especially with the way I did the door monitor, because what happens is Particle IoT sends a webhook into Firebase, and then I've got DNN polling Firebase, and then because you would normally just go straight from like Particle to Salesforce, but I couldn't get a way to jump through the authentication hoops with JavaScript, so I had to do server-side code. So it wasn't the best architected solution. It's just proof of concept, which is all I have to do in my world. And so anyways, hopefully you'll learn something from Salesforce, and I'll show you a little bit of DNN stuff that'll probably make you cringe.
It sounds like it's going to be a good session, if not funny.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you'll be like,
right.
You did that wrong, but I didn't know that, so thanks for...
Yeah. But we'll fire up the peanut gallery at you while you're going through it and everything. No, actually, I'm sure it's going to be really cool and give us some exposure to some things we really haven't seen before in this context. So it'll be really nice. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and end the recorded portion of this, but thanks for joining us. And join us next month when Clip Patterson comes and shares drops his amazing goodness of Salesforce and DNN and off the hoop of Particle into the IoT to the Raspberry Pi off the thing, nothing but net. And we'll hear from Ash Prasad if everything works out good there for a little update on the DNN store. So take care and everybody have a great time.